The poor lass, his lovely wife, had vomited all over the mongrel's cock when he'd tried to thrust it into her mouth. Already beaten himself, and not wanting to cause Ceana further harm, Macrath had not been able to seek his vengeance on the man who dared to touch her. But when they'd been crowned, he'd given him a good beating, though the jackanapes deserved death, nothing less. Perhaps now Macrath would have his chance to deliver the sentence he truly deserved. The only factor that kept him from pulling his claymore and relieving the bastard of his head right now was that they had a castle and people to protect. But that didn't mean Macrath wouldn't seek retribution on the battlefield. Oh, he would without question, and he'd take great pleasure in it as well. The bloody vagrant had gotten off easy when Macrath only punched him in the nose. He deserved death, worse than death. Any man who took advantage of a woman, abused her, deserved to be tortured in the eternal fires. His mount flicked his ears back and forth, trying to figure out whether the tenseness of his master was because an imminent threat was near or not. Macrath stared hard at each of the three men before him. None of them had yet to speak. He stroked a hand over his horse's mane to ease his disquiet. Macrath raised his arm in the air, fingers spread. If they refused to answer, maybe they needed a little added motivation. He didn't need to look behind him to see that his orders had been followed and that the archers had prepared to strike. "What are you doing?" his half-brother Niall asked, brown eyes piercing Macrath's. Macrath had not seen the lad in many years, as he'd been fostered in another household. He'd grown into a man during that time, and a fierce one, from the sound of the anger in his voice. Was he like Victor, or their father? He sat his horse tall. Broad shoulders filled out his shirt, but his muscles had yet to grow into his frame. The hair on his face was also thin, not the scruff of a man grown. "I have asked each of you a question. I'll have my answer now, or my archers will take your lives. You'll not live to see the battle, but I assure you, Sìtheil will win." Beatrice's thug chuckled, but he answered all the same, showing that there was at least some part of him that accepted Macrath would make good on his word. "'Tis not hard for you to know where I stand, bastard of Argyll." "You will address my lord as Prince of Sìtheil," Tobin said, a dangerous edge to his voice, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. The steward grimaced, clenched his fists, no doubt itching to grab his own sword. "I owe him no such respect." "All the same, you're a bloody steward, a warrior, and you'll respect those of a higher station than yourself," Tobin continued. "Else, send someone from the council's army who is willing." The steward snorted, spitting phlegm onto the ground near their horses' hooves. "Not necessary, Prince. I've been charged by the Royal Council to demand you rescind your title and vacate the castle. Alone. If you surrender, you will be allowed to live." That was a bloody lie. Macrath was certain that as soon as he surrendered, 100 swords would be thrust into his heart. And like hell he'd leave his wife and people to suffer at the hands of the council. Beatrice would torture them all. Macrath gave a ferocious grin. "Be sure to send Lady Beatrice my regards." The man's gaze wavered, and he grunted. What did that waver mean? Had the army not yet been joined by Beatrice? Was she still out in the woods somewhere with her prisoner? Macrath didn't react to the man's slip, and slid his gaze to the king's man. No need to send the bloody steward into a panic. Men like that were even more dangerous. Besides, if Beatrice had not yet made it to her army, there was a chance, though slim. Macrath could find her first. "What message has King Garrick sent?" The man kept his gaze steady and unreadable as he said,